Hey everybody, and welcome to this lesson in your A+1202 course, where we are going to be having a look at exam objective 2.7 today. We're looking at applying some workstation security options and hardening techniques. How can we secure the workstation to make sure it is less vulnerable than it otherwise would be? As usual, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about each of these topics, and then I'm going to give you some practice questions at the end. So let's go ahead and get straight to it with our first topic, which is data at rest encryption. What is that? Long story short, before we even get into it, it's pretty much in the name. When your data is at rest, which means your data is not moving, it is encrypted. So it basically means all data that is stored on your computer's hard drive is unreadable because it is encrypted. When it's not being transferred, it is encrypted. Okay? It involves encrypting your entire disk or specific files, ensuring that data is unreadable until it is unlocked. Generally, it is unlocked by logging into your computer. So when it is at rest, it is not being accessed, it is not being moved, it is encrypted. Okay, this is strengthening your workstation because if your data is encrypted, you can't read it. And if someone steals your device, then that's good because you don't want them to be able to read it. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. That's pretty much it for that one. We need to know about some password considerations as well. How do we make your password stronger? You need to know specifically about each of those. A lot of these are intuitive, but we have to go through them because you need to know about them for your exam. The first one is length. Your password, it may need to be a certain number of characters in length, and the reason for that is the longer the password, the harder it is to guess. Similarly, it may need to contain a variety of different character types. So if you say, hey, you need to have capital and lowercase and a number and a symbol, it's going to make that a stronger password than it would be if it were just lowercase letters, for example. It may need to be unique. So that basically means that your password has to be different for each account that you have. So you can't have the same password crossing over different accounts, because if you do that, then if someone learns one of your passwords, they now know all of your passwords, and that's not going to be a good thing because now they can access everything. So this helps to compartmentalize risk, meaning that if they get access to one thing, they learn one password, they don't now have access to everything. They have to hack each of your individual passwords, which is a lot more difficult. Complexity, which basically means you need to avoid having easily predictable words, personal information, or common patterns. So it has to be complex. Don't just say dictionary, for example, or don't just say password, or don't just say 1, 2, 3. Make it complex. Make it a combination of different character types and make it more complicated than it has to be, you could say. And finally, expiration. If you set an expiration date on your password, that means it will expire and you will have to change it to a new password. It's annoying to be the person having to do this, I know, believe me, but it is a good security protocol because in doing this, you reduce the chance of someone eventually learning your password because it is going to be changing all the time. All right. So combining all of these will help to have a robust password strategy, and you just need to know what each of these mean for your exam. Basically, the question will probably be something to the effect of, hey, he has been given the instruction to change this particular thing about his password. Which password idea does this more closely relate to? Is it length, uniqueness, complexity, or expiration, right? Or you might be asked, which of the following is not a consideration you have to make when making a password? Something relatively simple to that effect. Sticking on the topic of passwords, you can also set a BIOS/UEFI password. So not a password necessarily to log into your Windows account, but a password to actually access the BIOS itself. And there are two types of BIOS passwords that you can set. You can set a supervisor password, which essentially means that the BIOS UEFI setup menu itself is protected. You have to enter a password in order to access the BIOS setup menu itself, which would of course prevent unauthorized configuration changes that you don't want to happen by someone that you don't want to be making those changes. You can also set a user password, which is required to turn on or boot the computer, which acts as a direct gatekeeper for device access, ensuring only authorized users can start the system. So you can have a supervisor password, which prevents you from accessing the BIOS setup menu, and then a user password, which stops you from being able to turn on or boot the computer itself. Implementing both a strong supervisor and user password is a good security step if you want to maximize the security in your devices. But for your exam, you just need to know that you can set a supervisor password. What does that mean? And a user password. And what does that mean? Hey guys, this video is sponsored by the A+ Core 1 and Core 2 Ultimate Learning Guide. This learning guide has helped many people pass their Core 1 and Core 2 exams, meaning that they can move on to their Network Plus and Security Plus sooner rather than later. In the learning guide, here's what you will get: detailed notes, revision notes, active recall questions, and multiple choice questions for every single exam objective. 3 full-length practice exams with performance-based questions, a document with performance-based questions, a video showing you exactly how to study using multiple choice questions so you will be moving ahead of 99% of other people at a much faster rate because you are studying more effectively. A video giving you test-taking tips in case you get stuck on a question in the exam, a video showing you how to use free AI tools to 10 times your study sessions. And best of all, I want this to be accessible to everyone regardless of your economic position, so I've made it extremely affordable. So if this sounds good to you, you can head over to journeytocyber.com and grab your A+ Core 1 or Core 2 learning guide today. Alrighty, now some end user best practices, another relatively simple one here, so we're going to kind of fly through it. Some best practices that you should be doing and you do need to know about are using screensaver locks. So make sure that you have a screensaver lock active, because that way if you leave your computer doing nothing for too long, it will lock, which means if you walk away to go to the bathroom and you forget to close your computer or put your computer to sleep, no one can come and access it. They will need to know your password in order to be able to do that. Log off when you're not using it on that note. If you are going to not use your computer, log off so that someone does not have immediate and unhindered access to your system. Secure your critical hardware. Physically protect your valuable devices. So you could do this by using a security cable or secure storage. When away, you can actually lock your laptop, for example, to the desk itself using physical security locks. So this whole idea here is just the idea of physically securing your hardware, whether it's locking it in a cabinet, whether it's locking it in a locker, whether it's physically securing it to a desk. Whatever you do, make sure you physically secure your critical hardware. You do need to know about that one. And securing your data and passwords as well is also important. Make sure that your personally identifiable information, otherwise known as PII, is not shared. All right, make sure that that is not accessible and that that is something that people cannot easily access. Same for your passwords. Don't write your password down on a sticky note on your computer itself. That defeats the purpose of a password. Okay, make sure your personal information, your name, your social security number, etc., are not easily accessible. Make sure your passwords are not easily accessible. Utilize password managers as well as a specific dot point for this exam objective. So a password manager is basically something that generates, stores, and organizes your passwords in order of the different accounts that you use those passwords for. If you utilize a password manager, it's much more secure and it enhances your credential security. So it's always good practice to utilize a password manager, which is essentially a piece of software that manages your passwords for you. Now, account management, some things we have to know about, right? This is, just as a reminder, account management is talking about when we are controlling who can access the systems and what they can do when they access those systems. Some things we need to know about is restricting user permissions. So this is when we are giving users only the minimum access that they need to do their job to limit security risk. Make sure that you don't give users any more permissions than they need to. You're restricting login times as well is something that can help improve security for workstations, because if people are only allowed to log in during their work hours, that means they're only really allowed to log in when they have the ability to be actively monitored. That way they can't come back at 2 a.m. and try to log in and do something sneaky because they know no one is watching. Disabling guest accounts is also good. If you turn off the default guest account, you can close a potential entry point for attackers. Otherwise, someone could try to gain access to that machine through the guest account, and if it's disabled, they cannot do that. Failed attempts lockout. If someone tries to log in too many times and they fail, you can lock them out of the system because they obviously are not who they are meant to be, improving security. Timeout/screen lock. We talked about that already. Make sure that the devices are set up to lock a computer after a certain amount of inactivity has been detected. And account expiration dates. Set accounts to automatically disable after a certain date, particularly for a temporary user, to remove unnecessary access. So after it's been a certain amount of time, that account will expire automatically. That reduces the risk of someone trying to come back and maybe they've been fired and they're trying to log in to their old account, but they can't because now it's been expired. Now, we also need to know about the idea of changing the default administrator account password. All right, so it's really important. Always change the default administrator account password. Generally, it might be something like admin is a pretty standard one. You want to make sure it's not one of the commonly known ones because if it is, it's really easy to gain full control of the system through the admin account by just testing some of these commonly known passwords. So make sure you change that account, all right? As soon as you can, update the standard username and password for the admin account. Make sure that you are preventing easy access by doing that. So by changing that, you're making sure people can't easily access the admin account. Make sure you're implementing some of those password strategies that we talked about before. And of course, this enhances your security. All right. Almost there at the end. Another thing we need to know about is disabling auto run. What is auto run? It's basically when you insert a USB, you're automatically running that USB. So disabling auto run is an important step in preventing programs from automatically launching from removable media. Why would that be good? Well, people will often drop USB sticks with malware on them, hoping that you will plug that into your system, hoping that you have auto run enabled, and then what would happen is you plug that USB stick in thinking, what could be on this thing? Let's have a look. As soon as you plug it in, if you have auto run enabled, boom, you've got malware all over the place. Now, I've explained that. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. That's really it. Have another read there if you want that in text format, but disabling auto run essentially just means you're turning off the ability for your device to automatically run any programs that come on USB sticks. Alrighty. Similarly, we want to disable unused services. If we have any services that may be unused, we want to disable them because that will mean we are reducing our potential attack surface and area. So what are services? We talked about them in an earlier exam objective. We just need to know a service is a program that is constantly running in the background. It can pose a security risk because they can act as potential entry points for hackers that they can exploit to gain access. So if we disable them, it's reducing our attack surface. By disabling the service, you reduce your attack surface. How can you disable them? You can turn them off using system tools, but exercise caution. You don't want to disable anything that you actually need. So make sure it is in fact an unused service there. Alrighty. Now we're going to go ahead and get into some practice questions. The first question reads, a security engineer is tasked with hardening a critical workstation to used to manage sensitive financial data. The engineer must implement a solution to mitigate the risk of data breach from physical theft of the computer. The chosen solution must make the data unreadable even if the storage drive is accessed by a determined attacker. What specific technique addresses this vulnerability? A. Implementing a software firewall to block external access. B. Ensuring the system is always patched and up to date. C. Using data at rest encryption to secure the local storage media. D. Applying a strong password policy for user accounts. This one comes down to reading the question properly, guys. Your answer is going to come in about after I have a sip of my coffee. 3, 2, 1. Now, your answer is C, using data at rest encryption. This question specified, even if they get access to the drive, how can you make sure it is protected? You can do that by using data at rest encryption. A software or firewall to block external access is generally about someone trying to come in over the network. You might block a port, but this is talking about them having physical access, so not quite. Ensuring the system is always patched and up to date, a good thing to do, but it's not going to do anything if someone steals the drive. Applying a strong password policy for user accounts, great, but if they get access to the drive itself, that's not going to stop you. The only thing that will stop that data being accessed is data at rest encryption there. Okay. The next question reads, which of the following is not a standard password consideration when creating a strong password? A. Uniqueness. B. Expiration. C. Complexity. D. Availability. Pause your video if you need to. Your answer is going to come in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is availability. All right, we talked through all of those password considerations that you do need to make for your exam and you do need to know about. Availability is not one of them. The next question reads, a user is working on a laptop in a public library. They need to step away from their desk to take a phone call. Which end user best practice should they follow to prevent a bystander from accessing their active session and viewing their work? A. Log off the computer completely. B. Secure the laptop with a physical security cable. C. Ensure the screensaver locks the computer with the password after a short period of inactivity. Or D. Use a password manager to protect their login credentials. Ooh, bit of a tricky one. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer is going to come in 3, 2, 1. It is A, log off the computer completely. If we log off our computer completely 100%, then that is eliminating any risk of anyone being able to access the device because we've manually logged off. We've made sure we've logged off. It's safe for us to go outside and take a call. Could someone still physically steal it? Yes, but that's not what this question was asking. Okay, now the next question reads, an IT administrator is setting up a new Wi-Fi router for a home office. Upon connecting to the router's configuration page for the first time, they are prompted to log in with a default username and a common preset password. What is the most important security measure the administrator should take immediately to protect the router from a basic, easily automated attack? Is it A, disable the Wi-Fi network and use a wired connection? B, upgrade the router's firmware to the latest version? C, change the default administrator password? Or D, enable a guest Wi-Fi network for visitors? Your answer is coming in 3. This one's pretty easy. 2, I'm sure you're going to get it. 1, seriously pause the video if you need more time. Your answer is, of course, going to be C, change the default administrator password. Whenever you are configuring a new router or configuring anything, you always want to change the default administrator password all the time. That is the first thing we want to do. Now, if you have enjoyed the content in this video, this all comes from my